Hello and welcome to QUTV News This Week. I'm Micah Wheeler. The number of students in quarantine this week is the highest it has been this semester. We have 109 students in quarantine as of today, but there are only 28 positive tests recorded so far, some symptomatic, some asymptomatic, and some cases are no longer active. To explain what those numbers really tell us, President Brian McGee is here today with us.
Great to be here, Micah.
Nice to have you. So 109 students seems like a large number to be quarantined. What does that really tell us?
What that means is we're working aggressively to keep people safe, Micah. What we're doing is, of course, putting anyone who has a positive COVID-19 test and has an active infection in quarantine. But we also want to take students who might have been exposed to somebody who has an active infection or is even presumed to have an active infection in quarantine so that they can't infect anyone else and that they're in a safe environment while we determine whether they have an active infection or determine whether they just need to spend a full couple of weeks in quarantine. Some students will only spend a few days in quarantine. Some might spend 2 weeks or even a little more. It depends on the case. Testing is complicated. Contact tracing is complicated, and who gets quarantined and for what length is complicated, but that's the bottom line. We have so many people in quarantine right now, over 100 as you said, because we're trying to keep people safe, and this is the right way to do it.
All right. So what are the steps that QU is taking to make sure students who are quarantined have everything that they need?
It's a great question, and the answer is before the semester began, we wanted to make sure we had plenty of quarantine space. As of today, we have 137 rooms available for quarantine, and a majority of them are unoccupied today. We have plenty of space for quarantine. We have plenty of space for students to go into quarantine. In quarantine, you're going to have your own room that'll look a whole lot like any other residence hall space. You're going to have the supplies you need to create a clean and safe environment in your room and also in the bathroom when you use it. You're going to have food delivered to you as part of our Quarantine Eats program, and those will be delivered to you in a safe way so that no one's at any risk of infection. And you're going to be in a room where you can do your homework, you can read, you can talk to your friends, you can do everything you need to do as you continue your studies. Is it going to be the most exciting experience? No, but it's the right one to keep everybody safe.
Right. The students, they need, oh my goodness, where are we at? To contact someone who's tested shorter. It's positive. I just froze. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine, Micah. We just noted, some students have a shorter quarantine than others, and that's because they might be already a positive infection, so they've got a head start on their infectious period before they go into quarantine, so they don't have to spend as long in. Some students will only have a few days in quarantine because they're there because they were exposed to someone who might have been positive and are waiting for their test results to come back. And if their test results come back negative, then that student was never exposed and that student can leave quarantine. We have a very aggressive quarantining program to make sure that the virus doesn't spread on campus. So that means some people may go into quarantine before we're even 100% sure they were exposed. And that's why some people have a short quarantine window.
Okay. And then I guess the question that most of us have is, will QU continue to host classes? And if so, what can we expect to see as far as making sure that the campus keeps its doors open and continues the health and safety of the students?
Well, first of all, the plans we put in place for testing, for contact tracing, for keeping students safe with social distancing, masking, hand hygiene, and with sanitizing our campus, those plans have been in place since summer and we're continuing to stick to them. They've worked well for us. We know some students have had to work harder than others to do their part with masks, for example. And we know that we've learned as we went about how to make sure things are sanitized in the proper way and at the proper time. But the plan is still very sound. As long as we can successfully contact trace, as long as we can find out who's been exposed to whom and get them in quarantine as early as possible, we should be able to continue to do face-to-face instruction on campus with the understanding that some people might unfortunately have to go into quarantine for a time during the semester. If we ever got to a point where we'd outstripped our capacity for quarantine, where if we had a severe outbreak in Adams County or a surrounding county, if we had lost the ability to successfully contact trace, then we'd start thinking about going all online, and we've got a plan for doing that as well. So when all the criteria I just described to you for when we would consider going online, we set that up back at the end of July. And nothing's really changed. We're working a plan and we think it's working well. Would we like there to be no infections on campus? Absolutely, but that's not realistic. What is realistic is that we will have infections, some weeks more than others, and we will then work hard to tamp down the infection rate in the week after that and the week after that.
That's good to hear. That is good to hear. That is all the time we have for today. If you have more questions, email us at quumedia@quumedia.edu. You can also follow us at quumedia.net or on all of our QUTV social media platforms. For QUTV News, I'm Michael Wheeler. Stay safe and wear your mask.